That should be going too. And I'm going live here on Facebook. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the One Drop Shower Ministry of Preparedness. My name is Mike Albert. This is the 5th of May, 2018, and we are live on Periscope and Facebook, and then it'll be downloaded onto YouTube. I'm just bringing you a couple of quick updates due to some perhaps startling. I don't want to say startling, but it could be. To each his own. I try not to do fear mongering and just to bring you the news and information that I see that could be, if it doesn't rattle your cage and if it doesn't get you motivated to prepare, to give your life to Jesus, to really get into survival. I like to mix the two. I like to mix emergency survival preparedness, wilderness long-term, off-grid bushcrafting with biblical prophecies. So that's what this ministry is about. This ministry is about a 100-year plan for you to live in the wilderness. And you do this basically by just practicing the skills, learning the skills, at least stockpiling books on how to do these skills. But you can't put this into practice in the aftermath of a something catastrophic and all of a sudden expect to have a turnkey solution by reading some books and hey, I'm going to live for 100 years. It's not going to work. So I encourage you to get ready for that transition, whatever that is best fit for you. If you don't know how to start, where to start, and you're in the New England area, the United States here, I could train you on how to do that. Just go to our websites, Ambertracks.com, which is in the description, or worthingtonbunkers.com. All right, so let's get into some current events here that are happening. Now, you guys on Periscope aren't going to be able to see this. I don't know if I just swing it around or not, but let me just read it at least. I'll read it for you, and you guys on Facebook here, I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger, but this is more informational type of video than visual video. So I want you to listen more than you see and hear what I'm saying. Heed these warnings. This isn't something to be taken lightly. And once you start to feel that flow of this information, you should be hooked. You really need to get it out on your own. This one website I'm going to go to is called, I call it the HISRO site. The title of this is HISZ.rsoe.hu. That's HISZ.rsoe.hu. One more time. HISZ.rsoe.hu. And from there, you click on the alert map, and it'll give you a big map of the world with a bunch of flashing icons. And you click on the icons or you scroll down. Now, I haven't done videos in a while. I do them like once a week now on the Sabbath. I've been very busy. But when I see things like this that pop up that might have a correlation, may not, I can't ignore it, and I have to bring, as a watchman on the wall, as a ambassador to Christ, I have a mission in this world to save souls to the kingdom. So part of that soul saving comes into whistleblowing. It comes to shouting from the rooftops, shedding light into darkness, and you need to do the same exact thing, whether it's the chemtrails, the GMOs, the fluoride, and try not to get so swamped up and distracted into the, what do I call that? The gossip, the rumors, the drama of such things as, it's just information, but it's no action. It's nothing to be taken other than filling the time gaps between other events, but it's not even newsworthy. There's so much of that going on right now between, someone threatens this, or someone exposes that, or somebody wants to unfold this, or you'll never believe. When you see titles like that with keywords, and the list goes on and on and on. I'll show you an example in a few minutes on YouTube to the channels that I subscribe to. It just is it's spinning the wheels. It's like the propaganda machines of the media, and I blame it on independent media too here, on people that do their own news. I do not do that. Whatever's in my title is what the action is for you to take or to be aware of. Um, but it's not just following the trend that's been going on month after month, year after year, when nobody is actually doing anything other than talking. I can't stand the talking. You shouldn't either stand the talking. I can see I gotta shave. Anyway, um, so you all know about Hawaii, this volcano that erupted. It wasn't a massive eruption. It wasn't any, Mount St. Helen, which I was just viewing the other day. Mind blowing, guys. You gotta go look at that if you haven't seen Mount St. Helen eruption. Um, they're called fissures, I think they are. Earth splits open, lava's right there. Magma is at the surface, very close to the surface in Hawaii and around most volcanoes. And right before it happened, 2 weeks before, and I predicted somewhere along the lines this pressure was going to be released, could be released. I didn't predict it saying it was going to be, and definitely not in Hawaii. But there are super volcano monitorings, and on that website I told you, excuse me, they do super volcano monitoring. So below, when you scroll down below on that website, you will see a section underneath the earthquakes, and it's in big yellow and red highlights, the whole page. It gives you a list of about, let's see, 20 volcanoes, super volcanoes around the world that haven't gone off in, some of them, millions of years, tens or hundreds of millions of years. But they do release data on it daily if the mountain is, supervolcano is unrest. So if it's unrest, it's releasing pressure, it's adjusting, it's picking up seismological or Vulcan information, which is a good thing. I've studied this for about a year and a half now, maybe 2 years, and I see a pattern of pressure being released in a 24-hour period over, let's say, 7 to 8, anyway, six, 7 or 8 different locations around the world being released pressure, which is a good thing because you don't want that pressure to build up and to uh, dissipate somewhere in a weak fault or in a magma when the Earth is being bombarded by protons from the sun, because we are at a minimum a solar minimum low. It's just not a solar low, it's a solar minimum low from the sun, which creates these, what are they called, corona holes in the sun. It's sort of like a clear day on the sun, but that clearing allows massive amounts of proton to come at the Earth, and those come at different speeds. And when they come at higher speeds, the Earth's core magma absorbs these protons, causing pressure, and that pressure has to be released 24/7. So the past 2 weeks, these supervolcanoes have not been releasing pressure. And at the count, I simply go and look at it, these 20 volcanoes, it's on a list, and I look at the date, like today is the 8th. So I say, okay, around noon, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, United States, what amount of volcanoes have been releasing pressure in the past 24 hours? So I'll go from the 7th to the 8th and just count, simply count. Like I said, it's been normally 6 is good, 7 is good, 8 is better. But for the past 2 weeks, I've counted 4. Leading up until the eruption of the volcano, I've counted only 4 pressure releases of supervolcanoes around the world, knowing something was coming. So let's count today now to see how many we have. Today is the 8th, so I'm going to go to the 7th and to the 8th. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Great. Praise God. Amen. That's good. That means pressure is not going to be released in an exorbitant amount like it did in Hawaii. Now keep in mind, and then we're going to get into the topics here, that Mount St. Helen, when it erupted, it was a big eruption. A month later was the massive eruption. So we are not out of the woodworks by any means with this earthquake, this volcano eruption, as far as I'm concerned, in Hawaii, unless these supervolcanoes keep releasing pressure. So go to this website. If you know anybody in Hawaii, to alert them of this as well. You got to give them a heads up, and you have to give kudos to that. It was the governor there at that time of the state of Washington that saved many lives. So we see this from history, and we know how to save lives when we get warnings like this. And as technology advances, you know, and we have to give credit where credit is due. If you want to really monitor earthquakes more seriously and volcano activities, go to a website, a YouTube channel called Dutch Sense. I forget how to spell it. D-U-C-H, he spells it differently. It might be D-U-T-C-H. But since, I think it's called, he spells it with an S. S-I-N-C-E. If you start typing that in, it'll come up. He's got a picture of, like, I think a heart and a couple of lightning sparks that look like lava flows. Dutch Sense. He does awesome daily reports, sometimes a couple times a day reports on the earthquake situation, but he predicts 100% accuracy. He predicts earthquakes. All right, so the title of this video is viruses, ancient viruses, melting ice caps, and propaganda, which we talked about in a little bit there. Let me go to an article here that I found on this website, again, about the ancient viruses. Let's see, where was that? It was in the past 24 hours. So I'm scrolling down to short-term events. And let's see, it was in Canada, no, Kenya, Tiakistan. I think it was Tiakistan 7 hours ago on the 8th. A nationwide alert. Let me see the description. No, that wasn't it. That was a locusts. And they have a level of warnings, severity level of warning on this website from 0 to 5. It's like think of it, the battery power on your cell phone or the cell signal strength. So 0 is, they consider a level 0 where none of the bars are lit up, not severe. And it goes up to 5, extremely severe, end of the world almost type of stuff possible. So this was a level 4 in Tiakistan. 7 hours ago, there was a locust infestation. Everyone thinks of the Bible, locust, one of the plagues that hit Egypt when God was freeing his people from the Israelites from Egypt's bondage after 400 years. Because he didn't want to release his people, God released, I think it was 7 plagues upon them. The last being, he went after the firstborn. God's serious. Don't mess with God. So these locusts that have infected, they're counting the amount of acreage. They're called hectares. 68,882 hectares have been destroyed. And they went to battle with them with chemicals, pesticides, spraying, all sorts of agricultural ways they could best protect, and they ended up saving, I think, a fraction of the crops. But that is not what we're looking at here. Let's see, where was it? Hazmat in the Kingdom? No. It was yesterday, I think it was. Okay, so let's see. Australia, Cambodia. Australia, that's what it was. It was Australia. And they considered this a level 3, I think it was. Let's see, hazmat. Was it a hazmat? No, could have been one day ago. A drought in Arizona is happening again. Extreme drought. Which is all a bunch of lies, too. If any of you follow the biblical information, do you know that we have something called primary water underneath the crust of the earth? And that is where most of the water of the planet is. And that is how God used the water to flood the planet too as well during Noah's flood. So when you hear the word drought, it's really more propaganda and lies. Not to say that the drought isn't happening, but it's not from a lack of precipitation. It's a lack of ingenuity to tap into that primary water to avoid these droughts. Let's see. Australia has been extreme weather in Australia too. Great southern region. Greece, no. India, extreme weather. Hazmat, Cambodia. Where did it go? I wish it was like YouTube where you could go back and see a history. Um, India, extreme weather, critical infrastructure. Tennessee. India, extreme weather. China, vehicle accident. Cambodia, hazmat. No, it's Australia. I guess there's new. They only keep so many in the list there, and it gets knocked down as new incidences keep happening. I might have to go to the map on the top and just click on the icon because right now I'm scrolling through a list, which I thought would be quicker than this. I am trying to do this rather quickly. I have to get to work. Hazmat, Cambodia, Australia. I'm gonna do that. Let me go to the map. I'll go to the map on top. Australia over there. There's a big red icon in the middle of Australia saying epidemic hazard. You could click on that. More details. Description. Spreading risk. Okay, this is it. This happened on the 7th, which was yesterday. 4:42 p.m. UTC time. Now this is a long description of what's going on here, but the first sentence says, an ancient virus infecting residents across Australia's Northern Territory is leaving death and despair in its path. If that doesn't grab your attention, you're a zombie hypnotized by Common Core and CNN. Pull the plug. So now ancient virus, I'm thinking, thousands of years old, just off the top of my head. But think about the past histories of what has happened on this planet when it comes to viruses, diseases, plagues, pestilences. You had the great influenza killing, I think, 50 million people. You had this the Spanish influenza killing millions of people. Now that was back in the day when they did not have modern transportation to spread things more rapidly, such as planes, trains, automobiles, ferries, and even now, more drastic winds blowing. There's a YouTube channel called Two Preachers, and they spell it out, TWO Preachers. And they base, sort of like what I do, biblical prophecies on current events. Not the other way around. Not the other way around. Do not base current events on biblical prophecies. You don't bring the Bible, you don't bring the world into the Bible. You bring the Bible into the world. So what these two guys have done great research, extensive research on the past 60 years of history of extreme catastrophic weather going on the planet. And they have noticed a drastic increase over the past 60 years of severe weather. I'm not talking a common, rain or hail. I'm talking major events such as tsunamis, floods, mudslides, anything that has extreme impact normally throughout history for the past, 1,000 years, but the past 70 years has increased. Like here's the level of increase, on a steady graph maybe, but these things have increased on a steady, massive, like 400% more dangerous in the past 70 years than any time in history of the world. So this is very concerning, and I take that into consideration when it comes to the spread of viruses, diseases, plagues. That great plague, I don't want to call it great, the horrible plague that spread, the bubonic plague. Do you know that still happens annually? It's still around. In Madagascar, it happens. There's an annual season. The seasonal bubonic plague comes about. Part of the problem that's causing that in Madagascar is they have a certain section, I don't know if it's a religious section or a cult, whatever it is, they have a ritual, an annual ritual, where they dig up the dead and dance with them. Yeah, you heard me right. That's part of their ritual. It's called ghouling, I think it's called, where you dig up a grave and you take the contents out, whether it's, looking for valued treasures or clothing or whatever. But they literally dig up their relatives of the dead and they dance with them. That spreads diseases. Anyone with half a brain could figure that out. But now when I see ancient virus infecting, and it gets worse as this goes on. It turns out that this is found 1,500 years ago also, and they are relating it to, it's a shame that they're relating this to this, but it's part of the facts, is that they're relating this also to the transmission through sex as well too. So the mother's breast milk can do it, touching can do it, blood can do it, and sex with people that have this disease as well, and they're comparing it to HIV. The title of this disease is called HTLV-1. You got to go check this out for yourself. So, what else does it say? Let me get back to the other point I was saying about the weather. So about diseases spreading, and they have a thing you can click on this website. It's called Spreading Risk, and it's in red, and it shows you all the airlines that are in that area that could spread this worldwide that are international airports. Severe weather, jet streams up in the upper atmosphere carry particles, particulates, even sand across the planet. So if they're getting things such as a flea, which was the determining cause spreading the disease of the bubonic plague across Europe, killing 50 million people, which I think was at that time 70% of the population of the earth. This jet stream of wind that can pick these viruses, diseases up, can spread it across the planet. And that could easily land it somewhere else. Thank God we're 70% water. More than likely it's going to land in water, but easily can carry it onto other areas and spread this rapidly across the planet because of this increase of this. And it is in the Bible, folks, that we shall encounter, I think it's Matthew 24, pestilences, plagues, diseases, wars, rumors of wars, and then that is the beginning of sorrows. So, I'm going to give you a couple more sentences of this and then move on. And doctors are now calling for greater efforts to stop the spread of infection. The rates of human T-cell leukemia virus type 1, or HTLV-1, infection are exceeding 40% among adults in remote regions of Central Australia. That's a lot. 40%? That's unheard of. With indigenous communities being the hardest hit, especially in the town of Alice Springs. Many doctors, including the man who discovered the virus nearly 4 decades ago, are raising the alarm about how little has been done to prevent, test, and treat HTLV-1, which can cause leukemia and lymphoma. The prevalence is off the charts. An Australian said Dr. Robert Gallo, co-founder and director of the Institute of Human Virology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, whose laboratory was the first to detect HTLV-1 in 1979 and published the results in 1980. Yet, nobody that I know of in the world has done anything about trying to treat this disease. Who also is the co-founder and scientific director of Global Virus Network and chairs, that's something I should look into. I like looking at global, see what's going on globally. And I don't trust the Centers for Disease Control or WHO, which is World Health Organization. Anything has anything to do with the government, don't trust, especially when it comes to spreading of something like this and your preparedness for it. They're going to lie to you, first of all, because they don't want a pandemic. They don't want to panic about a pandemic or the potential of it. And then they're going to tell you to stay locked, slayed into the system that they have set up that they're a part of which is probably where they get most of their money up from, like NIH, National Institute of Health, which is all government funded, which all relies on the system staying into place, which is the big pharmaceuticals, the hospitals, and the doctors. Um, and they don't want you relying on nature for cures. They want you relying on them as you as a dollar sign, big bucks. Your dollar sign. That's all they care about. So they're not going to tell you about the real situation of something that may be global pandemic, um, and they're not definitely not going to tell you how to go into nature and to get a plant or a tree or a root or an extract or an herb or an essential oil to cure yourself. Mud, bentonite clay, 2.7 just happened in Hawaii. Um, there's so many ways, and that's a whole nother discussion. You can look at my other channels, my other videos on how to help cure yourself, prevent, treat. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to cure, prevent, treat as a disclaimer. All right, let's get back to this. No one's done anything about this. Oh yeah, Global Virus Network, and chairs the network HTLV-1 task force. There is little to almost no vaccine efforts outside some Japanese research, he said. So prevention by vaccine is wide open for research. HTLV-1, an ancient virus whose DNA can be found in a 1500-year-old Andean mummies, and that's spelled Andean. I'm not sure where that's from. Probably Andean mountains. Um, Mummies. So 1500 years ago, they found this same virus in mummies. What happened then? Where was that location? What is the history of that? Can spread from mother to child, particularly through breastfeeding, between sexual partners, through unprotected sex, by blood contact, such as through infusions. Because it can be transmitted through sex, it's considered a sexually transmitted infections or STI, sexually transmitted infection. Okay. Use S, and here we call it STDs. The virus is associated with myriad serious health problems such as diseases of the nervous system and lung damage, condition called bronchitis, and weakening the immune system. Sound familiar? HIV. HTLV-1 is sometimes called a cousin of the human immune virus, HIV. The focus has come about now because the high prevalence among indigenous Australians, which is probably the highest ever reported prevalence in any population. Something they're not saying here, and it definitely has. I mean, they're knocking at the door, and they're hinting towards it, but they're trying to be politically correct here. Um, and I can't point the finger at this website. This website, these guys do a great job, and for the most part, I'd say 99% of the time, they are not concerned about being politically correct. But they are getting talking points from people that are, such as people in universities that have, a reputation, or they themselves are not biblically focused and or are concerned about political backlash. Especially this guy. He's discovered this in 1979, and he's telling people this is a wide open area for research to be done. So he doesn't want to ruffle feathers or um, get into the faces of those people that may have influence or sway over his financing, or people going down the road of getting a cure for this. He's taking the safe route. Okay, me, myself, no. I'm going to call it out and saying this is being spread by homosexuals. Yeah, the Bible calls it out too as well. God calls it out. Homosexuals are an abomination on this planet, and they need to be uh, quelched and suppressed, oppressed. I don't care what you call it. It is um, a tsunami of plagues in this planet. I'm surprised HIV hasn't spread more, further wiped out a lot more people because of the I call it crossbreeding of genres. You got, I think it's like 30 or 40% of married men that are supposed to be heterosexual are bisexual, and they're going behind their wives' back and having homosexual relations with other men. Women are doing the same thing, but men are mostly like Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, spreading their diseases through anal sex, and that tears skin. That's blood infusion. That's spreading diseases, and this is one of those diseases. I guarantee it. I don't have proof. I don't have evidence, but to me, it's common sense. So, thank you, Mr. Obama, President Obama, for spreading the propaganda of homosexuality being accepted. And another thing about that is that, that rating system, the movie rating system, rated R, rated G, rated PG-13, how come there's not a rating system? What is the purpose of that rating system? Is to protect children, is it not? To warn them, to help parents say, listen, this isn't good for us, we shouldn't do that. The United States used to be considered the prudest nation on the planet, and that's a good thing. That means we protect our children above and beyond any others in the world, and that protects them from fill in the blanks, whatever you consider to be protected from. But how come they're not protected from seeing two men kissing each other? Why is that socially acceptable now in our society? Because of the media, the propaganda that's pushed this, that has an agenda of the New World Order to shove it down our throats, to whatever they see fit, whatever their ideology is, such as Common Core, to spread their sick, satanic, cult-worshipping New World Order disease. It's a disease. So my solution, part of the solution that you guys need to push to as well, and I'm looking into this, is how to go get this, I think it's called MAPP, is the movie rating system, to get a warning out, I don't care if it's a TV show or a movie, for homosexual activity. Even if they hint towards it, even if they joke about it, there has to be a rating in there. You rated R, okay, rated R, rated PG, and there's another rating, H. H for homosexual. Warn the children. Get it out there. It's unacceptable in this world. I don't accept it. God doesn't accept it. And shed that light into that darkness. All right, let me close this up here and move on. Let's see. Okay, the focus has come about now because of the high prevalence among indigenous, reread that, which is probably the highest ever reported prevalence in any population, said Dr. Graham Taylor, a clinical and professor at Imperial College London who runs the United Kingdom's HTLV clinical service based at St. Mary's Hospital. If we look globally, we know excuse me. This is my tea. I had tea somewhere, brought it in. Give me a second. Getting to the good part, I start coughing. That's Satan. Doesn't want leaked. But if we look globally, we know about HTLV-1 in a number of countries. He added HTLV-1 is present throughout the world, but there are certain areas where it is highly endemic, not pandemic, endemic, such as the rare isolated cluster in Central Australia. The main highly endemic areas are the southwestern part of Japan, some parts of the Caribbean, areas in South America, including parts of Brazil, Peru, Cambodia, and French Guiana, some areas of intertropical Africa, such as South Gabon, some areas in Middle East, such as Mashhad region in Iran, a region in Romania, and a rare isolated cluster in Malaysia, according to Europe Center for Disease Prevention and Control. Elsewhere in the world, such as in the United States and the UK, prevalence remains low. An interesting thing about Central Australia, of course, is you can go back 25 years and the high rate of HTLV-1 were published 25 years ago in that community. All right, that goes on to more about information and the history about it. So, what is the common denominator amongst all these? A couple of things I can think right off the bat is they're near coastlines. They are poorer areas, perhaps farming, less ability to have um, heterosexual partners. Um, so I definitely that this even confirms it more to me that this is being spread, like it said, by blood, by even touch. It seems like almost breastfeeding, but they don't go to the point of homosexuality, which can cross contaminate partnerships, heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, whatever you want to call it. Um, that's what I see in common right off the top of my head. Look into this yourself, folks. Keep an eye on this. This is something that can bring us back to the pioneer days. This could turn back the clock of time 200 years easily. I'd say within 24, 78 hours, 72 hours, really quickly, this can spread across the planet. Um, it's not so much the catastrophic events that happen that are a global killer. What is the global killer is the aftermath of the breakdown of society, especially nowadays where people are so dependent upon grocery stores, internet, transportation, and that dependent upon those types of infrastructures break the world down even faster and quicker when they fall apart because people don't know how to farm. They don't know how to do livestock. They don't know how to identify um, herbs or food such as plants. Um, you know, Guys, do your research. Get out on the internet. Get the books. Get into survival classes. How to. I don't care if you're just doing a foraging class. Go on. What's that other site? Meetup. Meetup.com has these things all over the place too. They're great with that. Um, but when these spread like this, and part of that collapses, you have corpses laying around. You have overwhelming conditions that aren't going to be able to be um, um, curtailed, that aren't going to be put out. You're going to have the catalyst events of diseases spreading because of, like right now, a lot of these things are squashed through hospitals, through first responders, through vaccines, most of which are, as far as I'm concerned, useless and poisoning. So do your research on how to avoid these, how to treat and or deal with these by example of what's going on here. That's why I use this map. So these situation scenarios are not in vain. These people's tragedies are not in vain. Um, I think it was some politician that said, never let a good tragedy go to waste, or a bad tragedy go to waste. So um, taking that into consideration, learn from other people's examples on how to best enable your survival in the wilderness when this stuff starts to get out of control. All right, moving on. Um, what was the other topic? We got the virus, ice melting. Listen, you know what displacement is? Displacement is, think of an ice cube in a cup. The buoyancy of that ice cube has no effect upon the level of the water in that glass. The size of that ice cube has that effect on the displacement of that water levels, has no variations if that ice cube melts or it starts to freeze. That's staying the same. Ice does expand, water does expand when it freezes, but there's a report now here on this website about, and it's a level 5, they're considering this, a heat wave in the Arctic. I forget, Arctic or Antarctic. I always get those confused with dyslexia. um, there is reports also, excuse me, there is reports also of the ice forming greater underneath. So when you see reports on global ice melting on the caps there, it's the ice caps melting on the top. Now also on the other extreme, there's a report on the same day, the same planet Earth, a freeze, a cold wave. Here it is right now. 9 hours ago, a cold wave in China. And you see this all the time around the planet. Extreme freezing temperatures, extreme cold weathers. And now all of a sudden, you get one report, and it's a level 5, they're calling it, a heat wave in the North Pole, worldwide continent-wide, 10 hours ago, and it's a level 5. And yet, an hour earlier, a cold wave in China. I don't know the mass where the ice is of what's land underneath. If ice on land melts, that can raise water levels. But from my understanding, it's all ice. Don't know that for a fact. But there are not, Hawaii just had one 2.8, and the other one was somewhere, it disappeared. It flashes real quick. The other one I think is in Pakistan, 2.0 or something. So if the ice is melting up there, it's freezing down in China, it's freezing out west. The only thing I can think of that's causing this is isolation of something from either above or below. What is, here it's falling apart here, what is the cause of that melt in that particular one area and not planet? If it's not a global warming, if it's not a global freezing, then there are other variables that are causing this. It's either one or the other, coming from above or coming from below. Is magma flowing coincidentally along with Hawaii blowing a cap here and the pressure being not released from the supervolcanoes? Is magma flowing around the planet underneath, possibly coming to that point over there, melting ice? Causing a heat wave. A heat wave there is, and I'll read it to you in a minute, they said is 32 degrees, which is freezing. And it's normally 18 degrees. So, is it a one-day thing? I don't know. Let's read it and find out. If it's not coming from below, it's coming from above the protons from the sun. Now, is that a coronal mass ejection? Is that the proton speed wind coming from a coronal hole in the sun to the Earth? And or is the Earth's magnetic field weakening? Is there something other else cosmic causing that weakening, or internally of the Earth causing that weakening? Ozone layer, I'm not buying that so much, of ozone depleting, and I don't even go there. I don't even dare go there when it comes to the animals on this planet or us having an effect on this planet's temperature. I think that's the most absurd, disgusting, gross propaganda machine, control mechanism I've ever heard in my life. Think of it as one ant. And you know the sequoia trees out in California? They're massive. I don't know how many hundreds of feet high they are. I look at it as comparison, us as being the ants on this planet. In ratio comparison to that one ant on that sequoia tree, how much damage is that going to do? And how affected is that tree going to be by the lifespan of that one ant on that sequoia tree that's hundreds of years old? The mission of that ant was to destroy that tree as we could destroy this planet. Not going to happen. Just can't happen. Impossible for us to have an effect on this huge, massive, flat Earth that I believe, in a negative impact. That being said, what is the history? What is the model for the past 20,000 years? We don't know. There is none. All we have is a couple hundred years of history of weather. What's normal? And don't tell me that you're drilling the ice caps in core samples and seeing the carbon and this and that and the other thing and saying, oh, this is what the history of the planet is. That's not good enough. So if we have been here 10,000 years and we could see a trend, a model to look after and saying this is normal, this is not normal. We know we've had ice ages, yes. What was the catalyst of that? Is it a heating up before an ice age? Possibly. I love BP Earthwatch, watching his videos. Um, he is dead set centered on a mini ice age that we are in the precipice of starting right now, and that something is going to be the catalyst of that. So, um, let's go read this, and then we got to talk about this propaganda stuff going on, and I got to get to work. North Pole heat wave, 10 hours ago, May 8th, 2018. Description. In 4 of the past 5 winters, the North Pole has witnessed dramatic temperatures spikes, which previously, now why just the North Pole? Excuse me. All right, we had says temperature drops and spikes around the planet, not just the North Pole, which previously were rare. Now, in the lead up to summer, the temperature has again shot up to unusually high levels at the tip of the planet. So out of 20,000 years, which the planet is much older, unless you want to talk biblical creation of the earth in 6 days. So 5 times, the past 20,000 times, 100,000 times, million times, we don't know. 5 times. All of a sudden, we know what's going on. Scientists, first of all, that's a word that raises a red flag to me, because what do they know? They know what they were taught in school and what is normal. Taught by those that were taught by others. Scientists say this, what are you doing? Stop. I'm sorry, I gotta mute this thing. Someone's keying in. Scientists say that warming could hasten the melt of Arctic sea ice, which is already near record low levels. In just the past few days, the temperature at the North Pole has soared to the melting point of 32 degrees. Not the melting point. Melting point's 33 degrees. And even then, it fluctuates with wind, with sun, with clouds, with chemtrails. Stop the spraying. Folks, pray over those chemtrails, please, in the name of Jesus. Which is about 30 to 35 degrees. There you go, which I just said. 17 to 19 degrees Celsius above normal. Much of the Arctic north of 80 degrees latitude, excuse me, allergies. Much of the Arctic north of 80 degrees latitude is abnormally warm. The temperature average over the whole region appears to be the warmest on record for the time of year, dating back to at least 1958. Wow, we got records. It is about 18 degrees or 10 degrees Celsius above the normal of 4 degrees, minimum 16 degrees Celsius. As the warm air they're calling it now, intruded the Arctic, sea ice melted suddenly. The Norway Ice Service tweeted the sea ice near, I can't pronounce this, SVAL, Svalbard. The small ice chain between Norway and the North Pole fell about 32,000 square miles to the second lowest area on record. The amount of ice is also to cover the entire state of South Carolina, the size. Okay. But I'm done reading, but where is the research on the ice being larger on the bottom? There's 2 parts of it, of the ice. Visual, not visual. Above water, below water. On land, not on land. There are very little reports, but I have seen reports on the ice underneath is growing larger. So if that's growing larger and that's melting, it's one half of the other. Dissipation. And it's funny they mentioned South Carolina because that's where there are supposedly reports of sea level waters raising, even if it was an inch or two or whatever. Um, who's to say it's not erosion? Who's to say the currents of the water have not changed or have a pattern of perhaps stronger, like we think we had 14 hurricanes this past hurricane season, that doesn't have an influence on it. Absolutely has an influence on it. I think my batteries might be dying. Give me a second here. I gotta plug the computer in. And my other battery died last week too, so let me wrap this up real quick with this propaganda stuff going on. And I'm gonna switch the camera around so you guys can see this other channel that I got some of this information from. And it's just mind blowing. It really is mind blowing. But first, let me finish this up first. Let me plug this tangled spaghetti mess in here of a wire here, where this battery dies. Okay, so let's wrap that up. Do your own research on that. It's a bunch of hogwash as far as I'm concerned. And it's more ways to get money from us, or another government agency needs to be opened or funding for. Just like Al Gore and his propaganda. And I see on the bottom here, NOAA, NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. There is, I don't know. They are probably one of the more needed types of agencies out there. Okay. All right, that's it. That on it. Let me go one over here to my other channel here. Now I'm going to swing the camera around here for you guys on Periscope here and show you my subscriptions. I'm going to YouTube and the channels that I subscribe to, which you guys should check out too as well. Sorry for the shaking of the camera yet. As far as, let me see if I can spin this around. Spin that around? Okay, good. Maybe even tilt it sideways so you guys get a good view of this. Great. I don't know if you guys are not seeing me there on the other one. I don't want to block my face. I don't care. All right, so these are the channels that I subscribe to. That's shaking way too much. Sorry about that. So if you see here the names of the channels, there's the two preachers. They're not on. I think they just do audio of the Bible. Go back, look at their history. Let me see if I could scroll through some of this here without shaking this camera around too much on Periscope. And I'll show you the other channel I want you guys to go check out about this propaganda stuff. And what he did is he went to a whole bunch of, the same day, there are like 10 or 12 different clips he went to within, a couple hours period of people having talking points, propaganda, which these media companies get from the CIA. 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, here's what you're going to report, how you're going to report it on, and they all say the same thing. Literally, they were saying the same exact words over and over and over again. There he is right there, full spectrum survival, I'm pointing to it. Full spectrum survival. Go to that website, I'll click on it, I'll show you what it, and he gives you daily updates too in 2 minutes of things going on around. So let me go back to my history. Let's see, I gotta click here, history. And here's another point that I was telling you about. Let me go back here real quick again. These words that are being used. Okay. Melania just hits Melania with the blow ever. Amazing coverage. Um, Nancy Pelosi just made a huge mistake. You see that I call it clickbait, but it's a lot of fluff and puff where action isn't being taken. People aren't being arrested. Um, there are two sets of laws, and this seems to be satisfying people's um, cravings for drama, news. Enough. We're sick of just talk and papers being shuffled around, et cetera, et cetera. Window dressing, it's called in um, the political world. But all these filler words, these clickbait words, it's just getting people, they're chasing their tail, spinning themselves around. It's final. Judge Janine drops capital bombshell. Talking, talking. You know, we know the information. No one's taking action. It's just sad. Really is sad. It's almost like, I love Trump, but it's almost like another, Obama administration at this point. All right, so I'm going to give you this one thing to click on, and then I got to go. But meanwhile, you can go back in the archives and see some of these other channels. Paul Begley, Secret News, what else? Corbett Report, Work with Nature, Prepared to Thrive. Go back in the archives, freeze this, and you could check out some of these. A lot of these are Christian channels, and just news that you're not going to get anywhere else. And some things that I find entertaining, like remote control stuff here, QAnon stuff. Trey Gowdy, again, this guy's got to go. He's backstabbed us like twice now. He's just another puppet. Just talk. We're sick of the talk. We want Gitmo filled up. Fill up Gitmo. Stop spraying the chemtrails. Stop all this. And who cares if they're censoring your channels? Who cares if they're censoring your YouTube, Facebook, Twitter? It's not yours. You didn't pay for it. It's a platform that people own. One person owns. If the government owned it, that's different. The government's not allowed to censor us. But the problem is that they filed a patent for to be an open source. So open source means you're not supposed to censor. All right, so click on this one. I wonder if I could play it. Yeah, I'll just go to the one clip. I think this is it. And this was published, I think, a couple of months ago. Where are the clips? I'll just go to the clips. That's it now. I gotta play. I don't know if I'm gonna get censored for this or not. I don't care, but let me turn on the volume.
Some research about that. But without further ado, let me show you the robot dystopian world that you're living in.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We're extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
We are concerned about plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets
dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous.
All right, you guys get it, okay? Talking points, all the same. All right, that's it for now. All right, God bless you guys, and stay alert. These things are going on. Get information, get prepared, get ready to live in the wilderness for 100 years. That's the whole point of this video, is to get ready to stay in the wilderness for 100 years. All right, take care. God bless you. We'll see you again soon. Oh yeah, let me give you a Periscope, guys, a quick look at that map too. This is the map. This is the website. or what it looks like when you go on it. Sorry for the shaking. So let me see if I can zoom this in here to you and highlight this for you, so at least you see it. Okay, that's the website you want to go to for this type of information. Those are the icons, and to the right you can just scroll down. You'll get used to it. You'll figure out how to navigate it. But you want to click on the eye on the right here, and that goes to details. That goes to there, and you click on the description. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye. God bless. Let's see, I'm going to end this on this one now, and I hate to do this backwards. Yes, this